Sadhguru Jagi Vasudev is a realized master, mystic, and yogi. He has shown the way for people to attain to their natural joy and to live life with experience from one's own inner nature. His presence is filled with grace and compassion. Sadhguru's scientific approach towards spirituality and work towards the upliftment of humanity have received accolades worldwide. The words that come from him in intensity and utmost clarity, from his deep understanding and wisdom, can change the very core of the being. Belonging to no particular tradition, Sadhguru incorporates what is most valid for the modern person from the spiritual sciences. His work, an outpouring of his blissfulness, finds expression in the form of a ceaseless offering to help all beings. Available to all who are willing, Sadhguru's life is an invitation to the divine through individual transformation. Welcome to the silent revolution of self-realization.
Sadhguru, if the creation is perfect, and the Creator has done such a good job on us, as you say, why is there so much suffering in the world? Why do we need to depend on somebody's compassion to exist here?
So, if Creator had done a good job on us, why there is so much suffering in the world? Why we need to depend on other people's compassion and understanding to exist here? This is like, it happened once. A little boy came home with a $10 bill. What, Luke? In Ohio. A little boy came home with a $10 bill. His mother asked, he said, "I found it." His mother asked, "Luke, did you really find it? Are you sure?" He said, "Sure, ma'am, I even saw the man looking for it." Why there's so much misery if this is a perfect job? It's such a perfect job that it gives you the opportunity to be whichever way you wish to be. If creation had not given you the necessary opportunity to be what you wish to be, then there would be no possibilities, isn't it? Then there would be no such thing as liberation. So why create a bondage and then liberation? Why couldn't you be liberated? Then there would be no creation. Only because there is creation, now the possibility of going beyond that. Now, in animal nature and in other forms of life that you see around you, every kind, there is not much possibility The possibility is just to survive, procreate, carry on with life and die one day. Because there is not much possibility, there is not much misery either. You don't see other creatures of the planet suffering like human beings. Their suffering is purely physical. If they're physically harmed, they're in pain. Even in pain, they do not know the kind of suffering that a human being knows. Human being knows this suffering not because creation gave this suffering to you. Creation just gave you the freedom to make whatever you wish to out of yourself. You're making suffering out of yourself, or a large population of the world has decided to make suffering out of themselves. That is their choice. Physical realities sometimes are comfortable, sometimes are not comfortable. That is so. We have been given the necessary intelligence to create necessary comfort for ourselves. That's not an issue really. If we have no problems with each other, creating comfort for all the population in the world is not a problem. It's not at all a big problem, really. Simply because we have inner problems, simply because this freedom, which should have been a benediction, has become a curse upon humanity. Right now, what human beings are suffering is not their bondage, they're suffering their freedom. If you suffer your bondage, it's all right. But if you suffer your freedom, that's tragedy. Right now, human beings are unfortunately suffering their freedom. This moment, you can make anything out of yourself. You can make joy out of yourself, you can make suffering out of yourself. What to do if 50% of the people or 90% of the people are choosing to make misery out of themselves? That's not creation's fault. Just gave you the freedom so that you could go beyond. Once you have come as human, you are not trapped anymore. Other creatures are trapped in their own instincts. Beyond that, they cannot think. You have instincts for survival, but still you have the possibility of going beyond these instincts. If you don't choose to go beyond, that means still enough suffering has not touched you because it's unfortunate in the world that very few people transcend out of their intelligence. Most people have to be thrashed by life, only then they will transcend. Only then they will think of going beyond, otherwise, no. I don't know if you're aware of this, Luke, you came early, but in India, if you if you tell somebody that I'm living in an ashram, they will ask you, why, what went wrong, what happened to your life? So they believe only after something really goes wrong, you'll go to the ashram, okay? Because most people's intelligence is such, because they kept their brains in cold storage, they think they're going to use it in future. So, they can only seek anything beyond when something really goes wrong with their life. Till then, even if something really goes wrong, they will only pray for a better life next time. Now, you don't have to depend on anybody's compassion or understanding. The whole world can live under the umbrella of your compassion and your understanding. I would like to see that you stand up that way, that the world lives under your compassion and understanding. You don't live in other people's compassion and understanding. If you have any dignity, that's how you should live, isn't it? Isn't it so?
Sadhguru, you said the suffering is of mind and we have the freedom to get rid of it. However, there are people who don't even have food to eat. What about their suffering?
People don't have food to eat not because there's no food in the world, because people who are capable have grabbed everything.
There are people without food, like the situations we have in Africa, Ethiopia, and even in India.
You're telling me? Unfortunately, we have left a large population of the world, human population, in physical pain. Pains of hunger, pains of disease, pains of injury, various types of physical pains we are creating. The way we are treating half the humanity on the planet looks like we are hell's angels. We are not human beings. We are not really human beings if you look at the world, because half the population in the world, we really kept them in hell. But still, if you don't know this, people who are in comfort and well-being, their level of suffering is much deeper than those people who are not eating properly, even today. That's the reality. So suffering is not necessarily always in proportion to one's physical deprivation. People who have everything, they suffer much more deeply than people who don't have anything. And just that you have too much and somebody is suffering from too little, that itself will cause you immense suffering. You may not be aware of it. It may take time for a lot of people to realize that in some way, every morsel of food that you eat and every hungry stomach in the world is connected, whether you like it or you don't like it. I'm not trying to make a situation where you can't enjoy your dinner or breakfast. That's not the idea. But it is connected, whether you like it or you don't like it. I think it's good. Before you, every day, you sit in front of your food, take a minute's break before you eat and think of all the people who are not eating today and still eat well. Understand? Still eat well, knowing fully well that there is something that you can do by eating well. By not eating well, you will not do anything. But by eating well, you can do something. Then this food will not go waste on you. Then something will happen out of this. Because if you make this one aware of what is what, this one which you call as human can't keep quiet, it has to do something. By somehow insulating yourself, thinking that's not your business, that is God's work. Right now he asked, this is Creator's mistake that so many people are suffering. By doing this, you're trying to insulate yourself against other people's suffering, because there is something in you which is connected to everything in the existence. If you make that active in whichever way possible, that something in you won't let you keep quiet. I would say, if just 1% of the population stands up really in a committed way to elevate human suffering, at least the physical suffering in the existence could be just wiped out, you know. The whole 100% need not stand up, just 1%. If they stand up, it can be done. Now, just whatever this action for rural rejuvenation is an effort in that direction. But just see how many people are willing to really stand up. Very few. Lot of them are, I'm happy, lot of young people are standing up, but still it is very, very few, isn't it? And to what extent am I willing to stand up and do it? That's always questionable, because somewhere we try to insulate ourselves with our own philosophies. One of my basic missions is to make life bare. I want you to see life bare as it is. And the bear is not ugly, the bear is very beautiful. The bear is very tremendous. It is only because you have wrapped life in all kinds of philosophies. It is only because you have wrapped life in your ideas, in your emotions, in things that you created. You don't see the beauty of it, nor do you see the pain of it. If you see both, then there would be enormous compassion in you, but still no pain in you, there would be joy in you, even though there is so much misery. Because you have not looked at life the way it is, you're looking at it through your ideas, through your emotions. Either you insulate yourself from other people's pain, or you insulate yourself from the very joy of life. Both could be alive in you at the same time. Enormous compassion for all the pain in the world, and still you go through this joyfully. If you looked at life just the way it is, not distorting it according to your emotions, your identifications, all these things. If you really respond to life simply the way it is, you wouldn't even think in terms of human suffering and other suffering. Anything that disturbs life, anything that hampers life, you would see how to, create a situation that it is not so. Why only your compassion goes out to human beings, not to other creatures? You think they're lesser life than you? So you're too identified with your own form, isn't it? So you think only human suffering is suffering. Human beings are capable of suffering just about anything. Isn't it so? You know better than anybody. Human beings are capable of suffering just about anything. If some physical reason is there, at least they have a good excuse. Otherwise, they will simply suffer for nothing. Haven't you seen enough people simply suffering for anything and everything? They suffer their failure, they suffer their success, they suffer their poverty, they suffer their richness, they suffer their health and their ill health and everything. You send them to heaven, they will suffer, because they'll miss hell. They are capable of suffering just about anything. Now, people are suffering the world, there are people suffering the ashram also, aren't they? Are you one of them? People who come from outside think this is heaven. Oh, looking at the mountain, I can spend my lifetime, people are saying, if not anything else. If I don't see other aspects of the ashram, just looking at these mountains, I can spend the rest of my life. That is what a lot of people say who come here. But there are many people who are suffering the ashram. So, people are capable of suffering just about anything. I think more people in the world are suffering of indigestion than of hunger. Isn't it so? Unfortunately, that's a reality. There is a large number of people suffering hunger. Still hungry people in the world, though so much technology, so much things have happened, and we have so much crop that we have to dump it into the ocean. Food crops are being dumped into the ocean. Millions of tons of milk is dumped into the ocean every year. But still there are people hungry, still there are children dying without food. Because somewhere, we gotten all distorted in our heads. The physical suffering is happening mainly, it's all man-made. If you lived in nature, the physical suffering would be very minimal, and your bodies would be in such a way, it's not easy to make a man who lives in nature to suffer physically. Because every day he would go through everything and his body would be such that he wouldn't suffer an insect bite. But today, everything you suffer, mosquito bites, people want to leave the ashram and go because